Welcome to the Gut Reaction Podcast. Another week, another episode. And this week's episode is going to focus on the frustration of being chronically sick, injured, in pain, inflamed, all through the lens of me eventually having to get a bone shortened in my right arm. Yeah, shortened. I got a full-on plate, screws, full-on 3 millimeters of the middle of my radius sliced out back in March. So, I understand the frustration. I tried a lot of different things over the year and a half that I was struggling with this chronic injury that I didn't know was going on. Tried some conventional things. I tried some unconventional things. And I'm sure many of you listening to this have tried to improve some aspect of your health, your fitness, and have met some frustration. Not achieving the results you want, not seeing progress, and I get it, believe me. And I'm just using the frame of my lens, but I've been frustrated about a lot of things, health and fitness-wise, that I have not seen progress on or results. Tried a lot of things. Sometimes it's just that way. Sometimes the things you try don't work, and there's something that you don't see that would work. So it's important to be open-minded in all aspects of life. You can stand strong in your opinions and your beliefs, but it's always important to be able and open to change your mind. Working in the health industry, I'm always trying to stay on top of what works, what could work, and what absolutely doesn't work. And it's really important because there's some aspects of Western medicine that are amazing and work really well. And then there's things about Eastern medicine that, don't always understand why it works, but it does. Does it? It does, anecdotally, and sometimes it really does work, but sometimes we don't understand why. But as I tell you this story, you'll notice I tried multiple things for extended periods of time. And sometimes, sometimes things also just don't work. But for the most part, my belief is that many people try a lot of things, but don't try one thing for long enough. There is no such thing as shortcuts when it comes to your health and fitness. Sometimes there are, but shortcuts, for example, Ozempic. But we don't know the downstream side effects of those things. So generally, shortcuts always come with side effects. So if you want to do it well, healthy, and holistically, there are no shortcuts, and it does take time. And you got to commit to doing something for an extended period of time to see how well it works. You're not going to see progress in 30 days. With my online clients, I always have them commit to 3 months because that's generally how long it takes to see results. Because people forget that a large part of seeing results is habit change. It takes a while to change behaviors and habits. We all are really fucking stubborn. I know I am. A lot of people are. So it takes time. So just be patient. So let me tell you about how patient I was in regards to fixing my wrist. So back in January, about January of 2023, my right wrist started to hurt really bad, started to get stiff, swollen, and I started doing the regular stuff, rest, ice, anti-inflammatories, heat, doing self massage work on my arm with a gua sha, massage gun, etc. But after a few weeks, it just wasn't getting better. So I went to my sports medicine doctor as well as my physical therapist to get treatment, to see what was going on. Nothing showed up on the x-ray or ultrasound. So the doctor and PT recommended continuing treatment and obviously doing some PT exercises. The assumption being that a tendon or ligament was aggravated. Surgery could be on the table, but they couldn't really diagnose or figure out what was going on. And for me, one, I don't really want to do a diagnostic surgery, and two, surgery is always a last option. Surgery should always be the last option because once you get surgery, you can't unget surgery. Unless it's a vasectomy, I guess. Here you can get that snip, snap, that famous or hilarious office scene of Michael Scott. Anyways, I digress. So it wasn't getting better with treatment and PT exercises. So I got a cortisone shot in April of 2023. And of course, it felt amazing. cortisone shots are a steroid, and they work by reducing inflammation and pain by just calming the immune system's response to an injured site. And they're generally supposed to last about 6 months, which gives your body an adequate amount of time to heal and recover. Except this one only worked a month. While I had it, I continued to get treatment. Yet, like, my doctor and my PT and I were just baffled. After the month, the cortisone shot wearing off, it started to get worse. Like, I could barely bend my wrist, and I couldn't load it in extension. So extension is when you bend your wrist back. If you're watching this on YouTube, or back like this, back like this, or like how your arm would be in a push-up, flat on the ground with your wrist in extension. Could not load it without extreme pain. Like, I could not even do a push-up, which is frustrating because, as I was getting new clients, there are certain exercises I couldn't show them how to do. So by this time, it's about May or June, and I started going to acupuncture, which has helped me with other things in the past. And this is where I started going down the path of the woo-woo side of things to help solve this wrist problem. I started taking herbal medication along with acupuncture, and my Lord, those herbs taste awful. Awful. I went on a complete elimination diet as well. I cut out all inflammatory foods and booze, yet it still didn't get better. And at this point, I've, spent well over $1,000, maybe $2,000 trying to figure this wrist thing out. Feel like I'd exhausted all Western medicine, with my sports medicine doctor, my physical therapist, anti-inflammatories, cortisone shot. There isn't much evidence yet for like PRP or stem cell research on your wrist. My insurance didn't cover it, and man, is it expensive, and I wasn't quite ready to go there yet. So yeah, I was ready to really start like diving deeper into the woo-woo and spiritual side of things to try to fix my wrist. Keeping an open mind, really just open to try anything at this point because I'm so frustrated. So I went and saw this spiritual body worker. This was a 3-hour session. And I will say this massage was amazing. It was great. It was a wonderful experience, and I think everybody should try something like this. Again, if you have an open mind. Without really knowing anything about me beyond, me explaining my wrist pain, when she got to work, she was able to guess some pretty intimate stuff about me and my past. She said a couple times that, often the brain forgets, but the body remembers. And when I tell you this was the most painful massage I've ever gotten, I mean, oh my God, it hurt so bad. So bad. But, she would like touch my left arm and ask about because I guess that's the maternal side, and ask about, I think I got that right, ask about like my mom and if she's okay and like any stuff that I've got. And then my right side, paternal side, ask if I have like issues with any like males or like father figures in my life, and or any other trauma that's going on in my life that had to do with like feminine or masculine energy people. And this person burped the entire time of the massage. When they first started doing it, I kind of laughed, and then it kept happening, and I was like, what's going on? What's with the burping? And they said that it was stagnant energy in my body. So as she was doing work on me, it was flowing through me into her, and it was getting released via burps. And I must have had a lot of stagnant energy in me, because there were points that this individual couldn't even talk because they were burping so much and continuously. Needless to say, on top of the pain of the massage and the pain reduction that I felt and the emotional aspect of this massage too, I cried during this massage. It was intense from the pain and from the emotional release. In the car ride home, if any of you listeners have driven in LA during rush hour traffic, it is awful. It is stressful. It's bumper to bumper. Um, Everyone says, my city has the worst drivers. I've driven across the country multiple times. Everywhere has bad drivers. It's universal. But with LA, there's a lot of people there, and it's on not very well planned roads, in my opinion. And everyone's trying to get the same direction at the same time. So there's so much traffic. But on my car ride home from the 10 to the 101 in Los Angeles during rush hour was blissful. I felt so at peace. I felt like I was on some on Xanax or something. Like I was chilling hard. I didn't have a care in the world. It didn't matter I was in traffic or it was going to take me 45 minutes to get 5 miles down the road. Like I was good. And this relaxation, peace, and pain reduction lasted a couple of days. And then it came back. All during this time, I continued a very clean diet, being overly cautious of my wrist. I had stopped doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu back in April. And again, I couldn't even do a push-up. I was so frustrated. I'd kept up with PT, acupuncture, ice, heat, herbs, medicine, therapy, mental health therapy. I was like, is there something going on? Woo-woo side of energy. Again, I went to that body worker, tried everything and nothing is working. And all I feel is frustration. No answers. Tried so many things for months at a time over this year that I was lost. I was tired of being in pain. I couldn't do much. It was affecting my job. It was taking away things that I loved that I couldn't do. And I had to stop doing gymnastic work. I had to stop doing locomotion on the ground. I had to stop doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And it was affecting my job. I could not even show clients how to do particular movements. So finally in January or February of this year, 2025, I had enough. I was like, I'm so over being in pain. I don't want it. So I went to a wrist specialist, curious about, whether PRP, stem cell, surgery, what are the next steps? What can I do? He touched my wrist for about 5 minutes and guessed that it was a ligament or tendon tear. But obviously, as good doctors do, due diligence, he wanted me to get an MRI to make sure. But from what I understood from him, it seemed like I was going to need surgery no matter what. So I got the MRI a couple weeks later, and the doctor called me after and said, I have good news and I have bad news. Good news is you don't have a torn ligament, you don't have a torn tendon. The bad news is you have something called Keinboch disease. It's like, oh, you fucking kidding me? Another disease? At this point, I've fractured my back. I had a subdural hematoma when I was hospitalized for a month or so. I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. Had multiple things taken away from me that I love because I felt so betrayed by my body. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? What is this? What is this? What is this? I'm not saying this to my doctor, but inside I'm just reeling. So Keinboch disease essentially is there's a small bone in your wrist. So the two forearm bones is the ulnar, which is the pinky side, and the radius, which is the thumb side. And they meet in the middle towards your wrist, and there's one of the small bones in the middle of your wrist is called the lunate bone, which helps with mobility, flexion, extension, and all the directions that your wrist can move and go. And it turns out that my radius was 3 millimeters too long. So what was happening is it was pressing up against my lunate bone, which was resulting in my lunate bone not getting enough blood flow, resulting in it dying. My lunate bone was dying because of a lack of blood flow. And he said it was lucky we caught it so early, or still in stage 1, but you are going to need surgery. So what the surgery is they open up my arm, uh, cut out a thin slice of my radius in the middle, and then use a plate and screws to pull it tight together. So now I have a full-on titanium plate, and yes, I am on my way to becoming a cyborg and bionic man, $6 million man. Um, so I got some hardware in my arm, uh, and my radius is 3 millimeters shorter. The idea is that with the bone shortened, then increased blood flow is supposed to go back to the bone, and lunate, and it should heal. If a bone dies, it can get brittle and shatter, which causes a lot more downstream issues. So I would have needed the surgery anyways, but because we caught it early and I got the surgery early, ideally I should return back to a fully functioning wrist. So I had the surgery in March 22nd of this year. So it's been about 6.5 months. I was out of work for 10 days. I think the surgery took about an hour in and out. Basically pretty fucking stoned on pain medications for 10 days. And I couldn't do much. And just played Baldur's Gate 3 because it was the only video game that I could play with one hand because it's turn-based. And I'm not going to lie, it was a pretty nice forced vacation. Got to chill, be high, hang out with my dog Butter for 10 days straight. I can't remember the last time that I had the opportunity to do that. Not to say that it's like something that I will do all the time or need, but it was nice. Like I worked pretty hard. And it was nice to have a forced vacation for 10 days. But like I was saying, I felt, and I still feel, and working through feelings of being frustrated by being betrayed by my body. Trying multiple different things. And like I was saying, I've had multiple different injuries or diseases and conditions happen to me. And throughout my life, to get back to at least where I am now, I've had to try multiple things for extended periods of time to heal and feel better. I mean, just to give you an example, like my parents put me in therapy when I was 6 years old, and I still do therapy. I've gotten to a point where I don't feel like I need it every week, which is really nice. I've really started to make points, taking action for myself, using the tools that I've built. But it's the same thing, like for my back fracture. I did like a year of PT and strength training to get back to, back and even better. For my subdural hematoma, I had to do PT, and it took another year and a half until I really felt like I was like able to return back to sport, to doing stuff. With ulcerative colitis, I mean, God, it took me 4 or 5 years to figure that shit out. Trying multiple things, but for extended periods of time, just to, in the hopes that, okay, I've tried this for an extended period of time, it doesn't work, let's try this. My wrist, tried things for a lot of things over that year, for multiple months. And it's frustrating that, none of those things actually probably helped at all. But that's just what happens sometimes. And like throughout this process, I encourage you that I understand the frustration of things not working. Give it time, like trust the process, be patient. Take these things as an opportunity to learn a lot. I know I did. And, one thing that helped me, I have a friend, a trainer that I look up to. His name is Hunter Seagroves. I was talking to him about this, my frustration, and he said this thing to me that has stuck with me for a really long time, and it's helped me really get through it, is that everything that you've had to pause, take a step back from, when you get better, when you heal, it'll still be there. And I hope that resonates with some of you guys, because like when he said it to me, it was like, oh my God, what a revelation. Like, obviously those things are still going to be there. But I mean, wow, like take the time to heal, trust the process, be patient. And those things, ideally, will still be there when you're ready. So if you're frustrated, if you've tried a lot of different things, whether it's chronic disease, chronic pain, inflammation, try something for an extended period of time, and if it doesn't work, try a new thing. And keep an open mind. Keep an open mind on what could work. I know sometimes there's things that work, and if there's not a reason of why we can explain it, like, I'll tell you, I believe that there are parts of this world and universe that we can't explain. But we know they happen. We know they're there. Whether you want to call it, well, this is going to get deep, or spirituality, religion, faith, whatever it is. There are things about the world that we don't understand, but we know that they are there. We know they happen. Or there's even things that are intangible that we have no proof that are there, but people believe it and people feel it, and there's got to be something. So, wow, I digressed hard there. That was a hard pivot. I don't remember my point, but trust the process. That's right. Keep an open mind. Keep an open mind. If one thing's not working and you've tried it for a sufficient amount of time, like a couple months, keep an open mind about the next thing you can try. So just trust the process, be patient, take the opportunity to learn a lot, and just know that everything that you had to take a pause on will still be there when you can return and heal, or when you have healed and returned. Thanks, guys, for listening to this podcast. I am working on having a lot more guests for the rest of this season and ongoing, but if there's any topics in particular that you guys would love to hear about or learn more about, or if there's guests that you would like to see on here and have me reach out, please reach out to me on my Instagram, DM me, or if you have questions about any of this stuff, DM me. I respond to all my messages myself, and it would be great for you guys to introduce yourselves to me if you listen and you haven't introduced yourself before. So have a great rest of your day or evening or week or weekend, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.